Sierra Leone is last of 10, facing a lot of traffic to deal with onto the far turn. Boot to Cachet has made the top clear, leads at a length. Against the rail, Diddy a second by a head. Keeland, Her Greatness, the leader. Keeland, Her Greatness leads at a length and a half as they go to the far turn, oversubscribed. His second and a half length. She feels pretty, third to the inside, pounces a wide fourth to the turn. War Campaign draws within a half length of the lead. Now matching strides, Kings Barnes moves up behind him on the outside. Epic Ride swings wide, just a touch between horses. Dornock has to shift lanes along with Sierra Leone. Boot to Cachet still has the lead. Didia, English Rose toward the inside. She Feels Pretty has the lead in the final furlong. Kings Barnes in front. Final furlong of the Ben-Ali Stakes. Boot to Cachet, 25-1 upset under Frankie Dettori. Sierra Leone comes forward for the lead in deep stretch and wins the Toyota Bluegrass. She Feels Pretty, a dominating performance.
And welcome in, everyone, to the Keeneland Look Ahead podcast. Most pleasant good evening to you on this Monday night show as we preview Tuesday. It's the only time we're going to get to say that during the meet. I guess, knock on wood, we don't have any other cancellations over the next 3 weeks. But what a day it's going to be tomorrow at Keeland. Temperatures back a little warmer than what we've seen in recent days. Sunny skies. The track dried out beautifully today. Was fast by the end of the day. Turf course played pretty normal in terms of times for the Transylvania Stakes. So we're going to have outstanding course conditions for Bluegrass Day. And who would have thought that, 5, 6, 7 days ago, with the forecast and the actual reality of how much bad weather came through Kentucky. Certainly blessings to those who are dealing with a lot of flooding throughout the state there. Our hearts are out with you for sure. Now, as we handicap towards tomorrow's card, we'll look back a little bit at what happened today, day 2 on the racetrack at Keeland. Had a trio of stakes races with a New York flavor in the jockey colony for sure. With those, we'll look ahead to the races tomorrow as well and let you know that we do have a super high five carryover in the 11th. Yes, 11 races on the card for Tuesday on Bluegrass Day. Super high five carryover to the finale, $6,199. So just under $6,200 for that Toyota super high five going into the finale on the Tuesday program. We'll look at all 11 races. We'll give you the snapshot of the card, a couple different wagers too. So keep in touch with the wagering format that we've got set up for Tuesday. Special wagering format. We'll go over all that in just a moment. Give you my key plays on the card. We have 3 winners on top today. Not bad, but none of them paid anything great. And we missed on a couple key plays. We had the Mott horse in race number 3 at 10-1. Rallied for second for us. Couldn't get to the top, obviously. A good effort, but we've got to get a couple of those prices in to make days. And so we'll do a little bit better today, hopefully, as we handicap towards the racing on Tuesday. As for the racing on the track today, 3 stakes races that we talked about. Colloquial was a big-time favorite in the Lafayette Stakes off that big 106 buyer figure in New York. He got the victory, but he worked hard for it for George Weaver, ridden by Manny Franco. It would be the first of back-to-back stakes wins for Manny Franco. His first 2 wins ever at Keeland came in stakes races back-to-back on the card today. He then added Test Score in the Transylvania Stakes. So he won on the dirt. He won on the turf. Big day for Manny Franco today, riding at Keeland. And then in the Ashland Stakes, the feature race on the card, it was La Cara going to the front under New York-based Dylan Davis and going wire to wire for Mark Cassie. She ran really well in the Suncoast 2 starts back. She tried to cut back in distance, didn't work out so well for her down at Gulfstream. That left the price 9-1, and voila, another big price winner, $20 winner for the second straight year, and about the 6th or 7th $20 winner in the last 11 years. In the Ashland Stakes. Disappointing effort from Mohima today. The favorite, we talked about it last night in handicapping her. I kind of defaulted to her. I used all in the multi-race wagers in the race. Probably should have been a little more creative, even going against her on top. She just didn't look right after that 2-year-old season coming to 3, and I didn't think she ran that well down in at Oaklawn. And she kind of ran the same race again. She wasn't terrible here today in the Ashland, but I couldn't certainly back Mohima going to the Kentucky Oaks. We will see La Cara as, one of the ones in the Kentucky Oaks amongst the favorites, but certainly you have to think the West Coaster Tenma is going to have a really nice record. I believe she's won 7 of 8 lifetime. She didn't impress that much over the weekend, but you think she's probably second choice in the Oaks for Bob Baffert. Good cheer, the obvious favorite for Brad Cox. Mohima for Cox is not developed like Good Cheer has as a 3-year-old. So Good Cheer is going to go to the Kentucky Oaks as a solid favorite after what we saw today. LaCara, though, nice win on the front end. As for the jockeys today, 2 wins for Franco, as we told you about. Also 2 for Flavian Pratt and 2 more for Luis Saez. He's had riding doubles each of the first 2 days of the meet. Like we had on opening day Sunday on the Monday card, 10 races up. 10 different trainers going to the winner's circle. Nice start for Eddie Keneally, though. He's won races on the first 2 programs. We'll see if he continues to roll. And Brad Cox had a winner on each of the first 2 programs as well. As for the different venues where horses prepped from and ran and won today, 3 came via Gulfstream Park, 2 from the Fairgrounds and Turfway. So they also had multiple winners on the first day. So it's been pretty evenly distributed. There's been no circuit dominating through the first 2 days that we see. And then in the 9 dirt races today, we did have the 1 race on the turf, the Transylvania, our first grass race of the meet due to the weather. But of the 9 races on the dirt, 7 of them were won by horses right there, either on the lead or battling for the lead. So speed was good, but you would expect that at Keeneland, obviously. You know, in North American dirt racing, speed wins about 2/3 of the races anyway. So today, 7 out of 9, not too much different than what the national averages would be on American dirt racing. I thought the track would be slower with the amount of water that it took over the past week, but the times were decent and they weren't too far off par for some of the different races that I looked at. So the track played well and played quick like it always does at Keeland in terms of horses getting over it and front running speed doing just fine. So in terms of handicapping going into Bluegrass Day, it's going to be a fast track. Speed will be effective. It's Keeneland. We know that. And I think that's the kind of day we're going to look at the handicap. A couple sires had a big days today. We put these horses on our sire list. Be sure you sign up for our Substack. We sent this out at the beginning of the meet, but sign up for Substack, jeremyplonk.substack.com, and we send out some extra handicapping info, updates each morning with our updated picks and such. But one of the things we sent on Substack right before the meet was a sire's watch list for courses that you might want to look at Keeneland. 3 of the winners today by Army Mule, Nyquist, and Vekoma, all on that list. There's about 15 names on the list, I think, off the top of my head. But these are sires who have won 20% or more over the last 4 years and showed a flat bet profit. So they're not just ones that are kind of punching in, tapping putts. So profitable sires hitting 20% or more. Again, 3 of them won on the card today, Army Mule, Nyquist, and Vekoma. Of course, Vekoma had the big stakes winner, Colloquial. And we hope that angle goes right into race number 1 as we handicap Bluegrass Day. Our segue is Vekoma, the sire of number 7, Steez, is going to be my top choice in race number 1 as we take a look at the handicapper selectors box as posted at Keeneland.com. Steez, I've got the only top pick for this one. Scott's got him tabbed 3rd, but I think we're going to get close to that 12-1 morning line price. Riley Mott trains this first-time starter by Vekoma. Now, we said Vekoma's on that hot sires list. Why? Last year, Vekoma's offspring in his first crop to run at Keeneland had 5 winners from just 9 starters, and then added the stakes winner, Colloquial, today. So there were 2 horses by Vekoma in that stakes race today, but you're looking at Vekoma hitting about 50% right now on the main track at Keeland. That's enough for a blind bet for me. And when you take a horse who's got some bullet workouts down at Palm Meadows training for this, I'm going to give number 7, Steez, a shot in the opening race on the card. Now, race number 1 is going to kick off the early pick 5 and get us underway as we take a look at the snapshot of the card. And it's also going to be my first of 3 key plays on the program because I love this 12-1 price. I know we've got a tough horse to beat in Camp Hale, no question about that. But if we can do it, we're looking at a big time price. And if you can separate yourself in the early pick 5 by beating the heavy favorite in race number 1, Steez could pay buckets for us, not only in the win pool, but in the multi-race wagers. Pick 5 will start in race number 1. The early pick 4 will be on the 2nd race through the 5th. We've got a key play for you in race number 3 we'll talk about in a bit. Keeneland Turf Pick 3 will be races, 4, 9, and 4, 6, and 9 on the card, including 2 stakes races. The Pick 6 starts in race number 5 and ends with the Bluegrass. The Pick 6, not the final 6 races on the card. That's what I'm going to tell you. We've got a little bit different wagering format here. A lot of the big races are going to end with the Bluegrass, not the final race on the card. So if you're playing the Pick 6, it'll be races 5 through 10. No carryover in the Pick 6. There's an all-stakes Pick 5, races 6 through 10. There's an all-stakes Pick 4, races 7 through 10. And then we do have the late wagers, a late Pick 5, 7 through 11, and a late Pick 4 on 8 through 11. So keep an eye out there. You've got an extra Pick 5 on the docket, an extra Pick 4. The all-stakes plays in there. a lot of different ways to play on this Bluegrass Day. So we're going to get things started off, hopefully, with an upset winner in the opener. Camp Hale, though, is going to be the top pick by a couple of the handicappers across the way, Scott and Kim. Invictus, top pick for Tom and for Gabby. Invictus is a well-bred into mischief first-time starter or second-time starter. They paid over $1 million for this son of into mischief out of Serengeti Empress. She was an outstanding fast mare. This colt showed some speed in the career debut at Saratoga. We haven't seen Invictus since, though, for trainer Brad Cox, since debuting 7th to Chancellor McPatrick at the Spa. Almost have to treat that one like a first-time starter. Plenty of respect for the connections and, of course, the pedigree there. So Invictus certainly could be a runner. Number 2, Camp Hale. We already know kind of what Camp Hale can do. 4 career starts, including a debut second here at Keeneland in October. 4th place finish in the Sam F. Davis Stakes last time out as a maiden behind John Hancock. The eventual Tampa Bay Derby winner, Owen Almighty, was second. The 3rd place finisher, Poster, came back and ran pretty well in the Jeff Ruby Stakes at Turfway. So Camp Hale's had great running lines. Prior to that, ran second to Grande, a horse who was second in the Wood Memorial. Prior to that, ran second to Guns Loaded, a horse who won the Mucho Macho Man Stakes down at Gulfstream Park. And if you want to go back far enough, ran second and beat a horse named Patch Adams right here in October. Patch Adams has gone on to have a little bit of mixed results in the stakes ranks here as a 3-year-old, but a very solid horse. So Camp Hale, no question, has taken on a top-level competition. But for me, in terms of gambling here with a key play, I definitely want to get win money on Steez. I definitely want to key the horse in the multi-race wagers if we're right on with this one. And then I would use with the 2 and the 8 in some exacta key boxes. You know, take 7 with the 8, box it. Take 7 with the 2 and box it. And try to get through there in race number 1. But we got a key play right off the bat. That's what we like to see here on these big days. Let's get some money going and play with house cash the rest of the way. So have a good first race on the card. Let's go to the second now as we continue through the program on Bluegrass Day, Tuesday at Keeneland. The pick 4 starts in race number 2. This race scheduled for 1 mile and 1/8 on the turf, and all chances are we're on the turf tomorrow. Conditions should be excellent for turf racing. Gulfstream Park horses are the ones you want to watch in these turf route maiden special weight races. We got 91 of them in the spring meet going back to our database here. And you've got 41 of the 91 winners in these route maiden special weight races on the turf coming from Gulfstream Park. No other circuits produce more than 13 compared to the 41 for Gulfstream. Fairgrounds runners have produced 13. So you want to start your handicapping looking for Gulfstream horses in these kind of races, and that's where we're going to settle with our top pick, number 1, Tomasello. Don't have to get too far down the page. Tomasello coming off a race at Gulfstream last time out. A good second place finish there on the turf. He's run on the synthetic a couple times. Consistent sort. Mark Cassie trains. Cassie coming off a win today, of course, in the stakes race. Of course, he won with LaCara in the Ashland, the Grade 1 Ashland. Cassie's going pretty good right now, right? He won the Arkansas Derby a couple weeks ago with Sandman. Now he's got his Oaks filly lined up here with LaCara. We'll see if he can get a race 2 allowance or maiden allowance race in the maiden special weight ranks. Jose Ortiz riding, one of the hottest riders in the Midwest over the course of the winter and spring. I think he's going to have a big meet here at Keeneland. He had 2 on opening day. He was shut out there on day 2, though, today. So Jose Ortiz gets back to the winner's circle, we hope, with Tomasello in race number 2. As for the other handicappers, Fateful Landing, the 9 gets top pick in here by Scott and Gabby. The 9's my second choice in here, Fateful Lightning. Faithful Lightning, Brad Cox trains, second place finisher in the debut at Gulfstream. Again, you get the 2 Gulfstream runners with the 1 and the 9. They're 2 of the favorites in the morning line. I don't think we're going to get too far off the plantation here, if you will. The 12 Excite is also from Gulfstream Park, coming off a good 3rd place finish. The 12 is out of Elate, just an outstanding race mare that Bill Mott trained. He's trained the family. This is a Claiborne homebred. Excite has a tough post position for kind of a stalking running style, but did close in the debut from the 12 hole, so gets the 12 again. The thought process that day from post 12 was to take back and make a run. The horse obviously has a little more tactical speed shown last time, but I would expect number 12, Excite, in race number 2 to take back given this post position. Brian Hernandez Jr. loves to save ground. He's probably going to take a left-hand turn coming out of the starting gate and go try to save as much ground as he can. 1, 9, 12, I'm going to stick with the Gulfstream runners there. And if you look across with the other handicappers in here, a lot of players playing with the 1, 9, 12 combinations as well. The 2, Meritorious, is top choice in here for Gabby. Meritorious Meritorious is coming off a third place finish in the career debut. Riley Mott, the trainer here. This one ran behind Disruptor. Disappointing a little bit coming back, obviously, in the Florida Derby out of that race for Disruptor. But Meritorious is back in the maiden ranks, going to try turf for the first time. Good post position there under Jaime Torres. Riley Mott, we've got picked on top in race 1. Gabby's going with Riley Mott in race number 2. Be a big start of the program for the Mott team. Let's go to race number 3 on the program, and this is an interesting cast in this particular spot because we've got some horses that were expected to run in the Lafayette Stakes and didn't in Gunmetal. Gunmetal is going to come back in this particular spot in Allowance Company. Was entered today, decided not to run today for Brad Cox and take on Colloquial. They go in the Allowance spot here. I thought Gunmetal was a horse who could have won, yes, one on the card today. So I don't pick back in the Allowance race, and you might say why. And one of the reasons is, for me, I never take horses. I shouldn't say never, but I prefer not to take horses taking the path of least resistance. If you have a horse and you're doing really well, why would you go for the easier spot? And the less money. This race is worth 120. The Lafayette today was worth, 300, 400,000. I know you're going against Colloquial, but if your horse is going really good, I want to take on Colloquial. Let's go for it. Instead, you end up in an allowance race here against a horse like Tip Top Thomas, who's no slouch in here, and Retribution, who's no slouch. So this is a tough spot to run for a lot less money. If Gunmetal was doing really well, I think he would have ran today. That's the reason in the stakes race versus running tomorrow in the allowance. So on paper, I've liked this horse a lot. Gunmetal, I love this debut at Fairgrounds. Disappointing, obviously, in the Swale. I thought maybe he would bounce back today. The other thing might be is he couldn't use Lasix in the Swale. And he couldn't have used Lasix in the stakes race today. But in the allowance, they can use Lasix. He won with Lasix. He disappointed in the Swale without it. Maybe he needs Lasix, and maybe that'll be the moral to the story in here. So Gunmetal, obviously, one who's going to be a major contender in here, but I'm going to try to beat him with the 2 Retribution. We look at some of the other handicappers across the way. Tip Top Thomas, Gunmetal, Retribution, 297 and a lot of different combinations here. This looks like a 3-horse race, but these look like 3 legit stakes type horses. Brodeur, the 3, is no slouch either. We talk about Mark Casse going well right now. Brodeur's a 2-time winner, entered for the 125,000 optional tag in here. The rest of them pretty much are non-winners of 2 lifetime. So Brodeur's the horse coming out of the Tampa Bay Derby, showed speed, got chewed up a little bit chasing Owen Almighty. There's no shame in that. He'll be one of the favorites later on in the card in the Bluegrass Stakes. So Brodeur could be a factor in here. This is a good race, race number 3. Get a fair price. So another, that'd be another reason. Like if you're going to take a short price on Gunmetal or Tip Top Thomas coming off the layoff, this is a pretty tough spot. So you kind of want to be rewarded when you're right in tough spots. I think the 2 can run. I think the 3 can run. And of course, the 2 favorites in here obviously can run as well. So good race. Get some coverage in multi-race wagers. If you can narrow down in some of the other races, I think you want to use 4 of them in here, including the 3 Brodeur. 2973. Try to go to all 4 of them if you can in the 3rd race on the program. Again, as we look at the snapshot of the card, race number 3, a key play in here because we're going to try to beat the favorites with Retribution because, again, we've got another Vacoma in here, and we love these Vacomas on the main track. You get Sharita Vo, 26% winner last year at Keeland. Jose Ortiz projected to be right up at the top of the jock standings. They team up and win 31% together. This horse has a good workout at Keeland. So give me Retribution to upset the favorites in here, but you want to get some coverage, but you got to get your key play in here at about 4-1. I think that's good swimming right there. So if we can get 4-1, the morning line price from Nick Tamaro on Retribution, I'd be very happy with that. Cherie's horses haven't run through the screen yet in the first 2 days of the meet. So, maybe people will back off betting a little bit, and that will help the price a little bit. But Pletcher's horse is absolutely going to get bet in here. Tip Top Thomas, he's highly regarded. Runner-up in the Champagne Stakes for crying out loud. Debut winner at Saratoga. And then Gunmetal coming out the 3rd in the Swale. And it's Brad Cox and Flavian Pratt. So I think we're going to get a fair price. That's why it's a key play for me. I think we've got a good horse at a good price. And if Vacoma gets off to a good start today, we're getting off to a good start today. Key plays in races 1 and 3. Let's move along next to the 4th race on the program. 4th is going to start the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. This is the 3rd level allowance. 3rd level, when you speak like that, is, or a 3 other than. Sometimes you'll hear that nomenclature. Basically, it's for horses that have not won 3 allowance races. And so you could win races that were maiden, claiming, or starter, but you can't win 3 allowance races, basically, to be kind of eligible in these particular spots. So you've got some talented horses in here. Have won a couple times in allowance company, looking for their third. But essentially, you're getting stakes quality horses at this level. There aren't a lot of 3 other than allowance races entered anywhere in America, honestly. And at Keeland, they got not only 12 to enter, but 3 also eligibles in here in a 3 other than allowance. You card this in most other circuits around the country, and there's going to be 5 in the entry box, 6, 7, and the races come up extremely tough. So this should be a really good betting race, a tough one to figure out, perhaps. Again, this is another one where you kind of want to lean to the Gulfstream horses. This is a route allowance in the spring meet here at Keeneland. We've had 316 of them over the years, going back to the beginning of our database. 131 of them won by horses from Gulfstream. That's 100 more than any other circuit. So the Gulfstream horses do extremely well in the maiden turf races and in the maiden allowance races. That's what we have here. I think you want to lean again towards the Gulfstream horses, and that's what I'll do in race number 4. We're going to take one right off the top with number 1, Irish Aces in here. Very consistent. This horse is always right there. And now Brendan Walsh, who's off to a good start at the meet. Brendan Walsh had a nice win today on the card. He's going to add blinkers, and sometimes you add blinkers to get a little more speed, and sometimes you add blinkers to get a little more focus. When you have a horse who's been beaten a half length, 3/4 of a length, 3/4 of a length, a half length, I mean, there are a lot of neck. There are a lot of close losses on the resume for Irish Aces. Maybe that little bit of extra focus that they get from the blinkers on can get him over the top. Ben Curtis rides. Curtis has already had a nice winner with Walsh earlier in the meet, opening day, I believe, in Stakes Company. So Irish Aces, top choice in here for me. Gets the great post position in a difficult race, and every little bit helps in being able to save a little bit of ground. As for some of the others, the post position, not as good, but the 15 degree of risk. If this one can get in off the also eligible list, really finished up strong last time without a whole lot of pace, out 47-4 to the half, and was finishing up well at Gulfstream and allowance company for Nolan Ramsey. This Ken Ramsey, a Godolphin-bred runner for Ken Ramsey. He's got Irad Ortiz named to ride if they can get into the field. It's going to be an outside trip, so probably have to save a ground and tuck in and close a little bit more. But I think degree of risk out of Gulfstream will be live if we can get into the race. And also the 12 Northern Invader. Got to respect this one. Coming out of the Tampa Bay Stakes, last time out behind running B. Carl Spackler prior to that has really had some good running lines. And here at Keeneland, won a turf mile back in April last year. The 12 Northern Invader, a lot of respect for that. So 1, 15, and 12, you just get a terrible post position with Northern Invader comparatively to a horse that you like with the 1 in Irish Aces. If you feel like they're somewhat comparable, then that post can be enough to put you over the top. You do get Jose Ortiz riding the 12, Ben Curtis on the 1. Shake that up the way you may. Another horse in here who's drawn really well, the 2, West Hollywood. Faced only 3-year-olds last year. It'll be the first time in Stakes Company. This will be the first time in 4 and up company this year. Hasn't run since Saratoga, but did get a win there in September in August, right before the meet ended in September, in the Grade 3 Saranac. So talented horse, good post position. Brad Cox, Flavian Pratt. Again, there are good options here in race number 4. This isn't the kind of race where I think you kind of are comfortable really narrowing it down. But if you have to rely on the Gulfstream horses in here, you've got the 1, the 12, the 15, or the 1 and the 15 are basically the 2 horses from Gulfstream. The 15 may not draw in. So give me Irish Aces. I don't want to take too short of a price, but it's a good trifecta, superfecta race when you've got a big field size like this. If the price you like on the winner or on the lead horse that you have on top, like Irish Aces, 3-1, if you don't want to make a 3-1 win bet in a 12-horse field, I totally get that. There's easier ways to make $8 than trying to beat 11 other rivals. But maybe if you like the horse, you key on top and try or superfecta. If you got one you really like, big field size, let the field size work for you. Remember, in pari-mutuel betting, the losing tickets pay for the winners. So the more losing tickets there are in a bigger field size, the higher the payoffs are going to be, because fewer people are going to be splitting up the winners because there's so many more losers. So Irish Aces, maybe a horse in tries and supers you want to put on top. If you have somebody else you like in this race other than Irish Aces, you don't have to follow my lead there. But in terms of strategy, this is a good try super race. There are good options. If you find one you like, put them on top. Use as many horses underneath in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th slots, depending if you're going down to the superfecta, as you can afford, and put together a good ticket there. Try to get some prices involved. You never want to be playing tries and supers in big fields without having some prices mixed in there. Taking 3 or 4 short prices down the line in a try or super, not the recommended way to go. They're tough to hit, so get paid when you're right. That's what it's all about, playing pari-mutuel gambling. Let's go to the 5th race on the card here on the Bluegrass Day program. Race number 5, pick 6 gets underway here. Again, the pick 6 will be on races 5 through 10. It'll run through the Bluegrass Stakes, so it'll end not in the last race on the card, but instead end with the big main event. So we get things underway here in the pick 6 in the 5th race with maiden special weights going a mile and a 16th on the main track. These races have been very formful over the years. By formful, we mean they are races where the favorites do really well and the form typically holds. In two-turn races on the dirt for maiden special weight races like this, 3-year-old dirt maiden specials going long here at Keeneland in the spring. There are 31 in our database. Favorites have won 17 of them, more than 50%. So on Sunday, we saw one of these kind of races with Brad Cox with a wire-to-wire stretch out with the favorite Heavenly Scent. We were able to catch that one. Cox does exceptionally well with his mile and a 16th horses. He does really well with the ones that are bet down. Shangri-La Road, the 2 would certainly be one that would fit the bill in this particular spot. 7-2 in the morning line. It's Brad Cox with potential inside speed on the stretch out. This is a horse who ran against Disruptor. We talked about the Disruptor race down at Gulfstream Park. They sent that runner straight into the Florida Derby off of that effort. Shangri-La Road was a clear second in there, 7 lengths ahead of the rest of the horses. So the 2 Shangri-La Road is going to be my top choice here in race number 5. None of the other handicappers taking the 2 on top. There's respect for the 2 around the way, but they'll try to beat them with the 7 in here, last man standing. Todd Pletcher is a second-time starter for his last man standing. Debuted at Tampa Bay Downs, had no pace help whatsoever in that race. 49-2, won 14-2. Valentinian won that day. That was another Todd Pletcher. So Pletcher ran 1-2 in the race. Last man standing, a McKenzie Colt, closed some ground, didn't get any pace help, and then since then has worked pretty strong. A couple bullets down at Palm Beach Downs. Expect the 7 to come back running here and be pretty effective. Horses who run well at Tampa Bay Downs typically run well at Keeland. I think that footing in that main track, they run well here at Keeneland. They run well at Churchill. The Tampa Bay main track plays pretty well up this way. So I would not be surprised if the 7 last man standings toughen here at 9-2. But I think there are other options. As you can see, I went 2, 10, and 4. The 10's my price play in here. Development Fee. This is, again, Sharita Vo and Jose Ortiz coming out of the race against Retribution, a horse that we've got tabbed earlier on the card. We got Retribution to win race number 3. Development Fees coming out of the same race as that one, while Retribution steps up in class off the maiden win. Development Fees back against maidens. An even effort that day, going 5th pretty much all the way around the track, and gets blinkers on and stretches out in distance. Even running sprinters tend to run well when they stretch out for the first time, and then adding blinkers. I think the 10 Development Fee can be the interesting horse in this race. Last man standing, Pitkin, Shangri-La Road, 2-4-7 are going to get beat. If you look at the other public handicappers, it's 2-4-7, 2-4-7, 2-4-7. If we can get another horse in this race, we can get a reasonable payoff. And I think, in the exotics, because there's some discrepancy between the 2-4-7, just like there's no standout amongst those 3, which one is the best. But you don't want to use all 3 in combinations because everybody's going to be doing the same thing. You want to get outside the public if you can. The 10 Development Fee is a horse who can do that for you. Again, even running sprinter, stretching out. If they just run 1 gear all the way around, that 1 gear and sprint speed is very effective in a route race. And if Development Fee can sustain that over the course of 2 turns, I think this horse can be effective. Post 10's no picnic out there, but you're going to get a nice price. 15-1 in the morning line, Development Fee. So if I'm betting this race, I like the 2 in here, Shangri-La Road. I'm getting some 2-10s, heavy. I'm getting some smaller 4-10s and 7-10s as ways to look at number 10 Development Fee. If you want to get some exactness with Development Fee, pulling the upset, there's nothing wrong with that as well. I would use the same kind of combinations, 2, 4, and 7 under. But I would play stronger with that horse running second than on top. My biggest play certainly would be a 2-10 Colt Exacta, and then smaller amounts on some of the other combinations, working in and around those price play with the 10 Development Fee. So that's a look at race number 5, the final of the undercard races, if you will. And we get into stakes action coming up next with 5 consecutive stakes races here to talk about on the card. As we go back to the snapshot, the All Stakes Pick 5 will kick off in race number 6 with the Appalachian Stakes. It is also second leg of the Keeneland Turf Pick 3, race number 4 in the Keeneland Turf Pick 3. We said Irish Aces was our top pick in that one. We'll see who we might pair that one up with in the Keeneland Turf Pick 3, and also the start of the All Stakes Pick 5. Here is the field for the Appalachian Stakes. These are 3-year-old fillies. Mark Casse, he had the win today with the filly going to the Ashland Stakes in La Cara. He's had a lot of success in this race. The race is the Appalachian Stakes. He won it in 2016. He won it in 2017. He won it in 2023. He's got the first 2 on the program. Number 1, Nitrogen. Number 2, Vixen. So Mark Casse, definitely a guy who's got horses ready to run in these races. They come up from Florida ready to go, either from Gulfstream or Tampa Bay Downs. He's got one from each of those circuits coming up in this one. Irad Ortiz rides Vixen. Nitrogen gets Jose Ortiz. They are very difficult to separate. I think both of the Casse horses in here would be pretty darn live in this race. I take a little bit of a shot in here, though, with number 10, Table Flirt. 20-1 in the morning line. Bill Mott trains this one. You get Flavia and Pratt riding, coming off a maiden win. And you say, why are you taking a horse coming off a maiden win? It was at 1 1/8 last time. They've only got to go a mile in this race, but look at the closing fractions of that race down at Gulfstream Park. Table Flirt is a daughter of Constitution. She's gotten a little bit better each start. At the back end of that 1 1/8 race, she went 11 2/5 seconds for the final furlong. That is absolutely flying. And so I think she's really coming to hand right now. She's out of Into Chocolate, who was a nice race mare. I think Table Flirt, I'm not wild about the post position. I wouldn't take a short price from the 10-hole against good competition like this. But at a nice price, 20-1 in the morning line, sign me up. Table Flirt, a long shot play here in the Appalachian Stakes. A ton of respect for the 2 Casse runners in here, the 1 and the 2. So I've got this race 10-2-1, 10-1-2, the way I'm going to shake things up to start off the All Stakes Pick 5 with a 20-1 morning line shot. Nobody else has Table Flirt anywhere in their top 3. I love that. That means I'm on the island, as I like to say. So give me Mark Casse, give me Table Flirt at that price. Just rocketed home last time. Hopefully we can do the same thing here under Flavia and Pratt. As for the other handicappers, a lot of love in here for the 6, Totally Justified. This horse just missed by a nose. Filly missed by a nose in the Jessamine here last year. She hasn't run since November. Justified, the sire, had the winner of this race a couple years ago in Buku. And Buku, of course, multiple stakes winner over the track here at Keeland. The Justifies run really well on the turf here. So the 6, Totally Justified, off since the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. That's, no shame in that. She's got really good form in here. So I would not be surprised if she runs a good race in here. But I am taking a price shot with number 10, Table Flirt. So we'll see if we can't get that one 20-1 in the morning line. So, we've been kind of swimming around with some short prices in some of these races the first day. And I kind of felt bad about picking some favorites here and there, but the gloves have kind of come off, and I don't look at the morning lines when I'm doing my handicapping. Most days I've printed the past performances, almost all days before the morning line comes out. I print them the day that the draw is made, not later in the week. So I usually find out if I pick favorites or not after the fact. You can get a pretty good feel when you're handicapping a race, though, without even seeing a morning line of, okay, this horse is going to be back pretty strong. The connections. But I feel like on this card, we've got a chance to get some swings in, and, Bill Mott, Riley Mott, if we can get kind of a good day for the Motts, will be a good day for all of us following some of these picks here. And I've got another price play coming up in the 7th race. So let's get right to that one. It's going to be my 3rd key play on the card. This is the Commonwealth Stakes. It's starting the late pick 5, and it also starts an All Stakes pick 4 on races 7 through 10. But the Commonwealth Stakes is a race where you can get a little bit of a price in here historically. We've run this race back on the dirt 9 years since going back to the dirt in the springtime. It was, I believe, held in the summer back in 2020 at that meet. But favorites are only 1 for 9 since returning to dirt. The average winner is almost 8-1. And 3 of the last 6 winners of the Commonwealth have been 11-1 plus. Just like we talked about with the Ashland today, some of these stakes races just kind of set themselves up for prices. And it's not totally coincidence. Some of it is like what circuits are bringing horses to your racetracks, what circuits still have races going right now, what circuits are getting overbet historically, in particular pockets of races at Keeland. So you can see why sometimes layoff horses do better in other situations than some others. And, this is a race where layoffs do not do well in the Commonwealth Stakes. So you may have had a lot of big name horses over the years come back here, and I think this is a good spot for the first start of the year. All 9 times since this race has been run in the spring on dirt since coming back to the surface, none of the winners, or all of the winners, I should say, none of the horses were off layoffs. All of the winners had a prep in February or March leading into this first week of April race. So recent form has been very important in this race. I wouldn't be hanging my hat on a horse who's got, a big layoff to overcome in this particular spot. So try to find something that's got a little bit of form of recency and go to work with that. Now, this particular race, I've got Hot Pace written at the top of my past performances with a big circle around it. I think they're going to fly early in this race. Montesino was very fast. Epic Ride is fast. We've got a lot of speed from some of the outside horses in here as well. What you talking about? Hear My Song is another horse who's got some early speed to him. There's some horses that can cook early. Prince of Power might be a little bit cheaper speed, but wants to go to the front as well. And remember, it's 7/8 of a mile. This is a little bit tougher than 6 furlongs in terms of getting the distance. So my price play in here is going to be Nutella Fella coming from out of the, not out of the clouds completely, but I think this horse will be sitting back off the pace a reasonable amount. Has come with a run in every single race, whether the pace was slow or fast. Doesn't necessarily need a setup. Good effort last time to get there in the stakes race at Tampa, the Pelican Stakes. I believe that might have been run on the undercard on Sam F. Davis Day, somewhere around that time. Luis Saez is going to ride for Gary Contessa. I think this is a good finisher in a race where they're begging for a closer to come get him. 12-1 in the morning line. This is a 4-year-old son of Run Happy. He's been good since really right off the bat. Won the Hopeful in his second career start. Didn't show up for almost a year, and then came back in the Woody Stevens on Belmont Day. Got beat a length off of that kind of layoff. This is a really talented horse. He's third start off the layoff now. Perfect spot of his form cycle, I think, to pop a big effort. Nutella Fella, the horse in here at 12-1, continuing a nice set of prices for me on this program. Now, Montesino is the top choice in here for 3 of the other handicappers, and second choice for Scott. This one is another one for Sharita Vo and Jose Ortiz. A big winner over the track in October. You can't argue with that. 121-2, absolutely flying. This horse has done nothing wrong in 4 career starts. Second off the layoff, though, will we see any kind of regression here for the horse coming off a win at Fairgrounds? And the question I have is the other speed in the race. Will there be other pressure in here to go and try to cave Montesino at 7/8 of a mile? I'm going to try to beat him in this particular spot. I think there are some good options. I like the horses from off the pace. The 6, Hoist the Gold, I think can sit and pounce. The last time out, a really good effort at Fairgrounds at 109 flat. A horse who won the Phoenix Stakes here at Keeneland in the past. Hoist the Gold, I've got a lot of respect for. I think Montesino is going to be a short price, a 3-1 in the morning line. I think going to go shorter than that and be an underlay. This handicapper selectors box kind of tells me that as well, right? Everybody else is on Montesino. I could be completely wrong. I tried to beat Colloquial today. Colloquial didn't run great, but got the victory, was a little bit vulnerable, but still got the win. Maybe Montesino will be the same way, and I'm trying to beat a horse who's going to be a strong favorite who probably, is better than these, but couple big buyer speed figures. Obviously, there's a big gap in the speed figures, right? When you're looking at the hundreds for Montesino, and I'm taking Nutella Fellow, who did get a 96 last year in the Woody Stevens, got to get back and probably in the same time zone as the favorite in here. But we're going to need pace help. And if you don't go with Montesino early, he'll probably win the race wire to wire. But he's a 4-year-old with 4 career starts. Nutella Fellow, 4-year-old with 5 career starts. So these horses are volatile. They could go a couple different directions, but I like the pace setup in here and the fact that this race has historically been very kind to some upset prices. And so maybe they will jump on the wrong thing again in the Commonwealth Stakes. And if that's Montesino because of the big speed figures, but never really doing it against this class of competition, then maybe we can be the benefactor of that with the upset pick in here. Let's go Nutella Fellow, our third and final key play in race number 7. Let's go to the 8th. It's the Madison Stakes. This is a grade 1 stakes race for the fillies and mares in the sprint division. Madison Stakes field. I didn't show the Commonwealth field, but here's the Madison field. We've got a field of 8 in here. Emery, very talented filly, won the Raven Run here over the track at Keeland. She also won a 6 furlong allowance race back in 24. She had a good season here last year. She ran second in the Inside Information behind Mystic Lake, who's back in this race. Rematch between the 2 and the 8 from their most recent start back in January. Both are freshened by trainers who like to give their horses time, Brad Cox and Saffie Joseph. I would expect Emery and Mystic Lake to both be very effective in this race, as well as number 7, Justique. Justique is a deep closer. She's got no early speed at all. She trained or I should say she prepared herself in Southern California and trained in Southern California for John Sheriff for her entire career. He was sending her along. He was running her on the turf. She got back to sprinting on the dirt and went to Cherie DeVaux's barn, and she had a lot of success. Fairgrounds, Oaklawn, back-to-back wins for her. Justique is a filly that you've got to watch in here. Last year, we saw Alva Star come through the Oaklawn route and win this race. 2021, Kamari came through Oaklawn. So Justique's coming off a good win in the carousel last time in a race that could produce a winner for the Grade 1 Madison for sure. Tom Leach, the voice of the Wildcats, caught up with Cherie DeVaux earlier this week to talk about this filly, Justique, and her chances in the Madison. Let's listen in.
Cherie DeVaux's got Justique in the Grade 1 Resolute Racing Madison. Tell me about the improvement in those last 2 starts and what brought that about.
She came to us after running really well in California. And when she came in, just wanted to go back to what suited her, which seemed to be a one-turn sprint, 6-7 furlongs. And, she's put in 2 awesome races, and we look forward to a little bit more distance in the Madison.
Yeah, so the 7 is what you're looking for.
Exactly. I thought initially the 6 furlongs was going to be a little bit of a ask, because she kind of gives herself a little bit to do. The first race off the layoff, she did break sharply. And the second race was more characteristic of her running style previous, where she breaks but kind of falls it back. And I just think that the 7 furlongs will give her more of a chance to get up there.
What has impressed her since she's come into your barn?
She's been really straightforward. She came in looking awesome, in really good form. We did give her a little bit of a freshening. But, I really just think the only thing that's changed is the distance of her races as of recent.
How much upside is there for this one?
It could be anything. She does need to improve, but she's on that trajectory in her training and the way she looks and in her races.
What about an off-track?
All right, that's Cherie DeVaux. Thanks to her and also to Tom Leach for the interviews. We're also going to get some interviews before the Bluegrass as we handicap here throughout the remainder of the podcast. And I want to note, I should have mentioned off the hop here, number 6, Scylla, is going to scratch. Marcus Hirsch, I believe, of Daily Racing Form, or Dave Grenning. Someone with DRF reported that she came down with a fever and will miss the Madison. So morning line favorite number 6, Scylla, will scratch. That's why I haven't really talked about her when talking about the rematch between Emery and Mystic Lake, and then the late runner Justique to try to come in there. 2, 8, and 7 are going to be a lot of the factors in handicapping this particular race, the Madison Stakes. And as we look at the public handicappers going across the way in race number 8, 8, 2, 7 for Scott, 2, 8 on top for Tom. I've got it 8, 7, 2, a lot of 8, 7s and 2s mixed in there. Again, the scratch of Scylla is going to come out of there for some of the other handicappers, and I would imagine that Mystic Lake might be a horse, or Justique subbed in there. Kind of a 3-horse race on paper the way it shows up. Now, the reason I went with Mystic Lake is I think Mystic Lake is the fastest early of those 3, and I don't think there's a lot of speed in this race. We've got a field of 7. I don't think there's a ton of early pace in here. And from the outside draw, Mystic Lake can really get a good trip in here under Irad Ortiz, can apply the pressure as they see fit, or just hustle and clear everybody. Emery's got a little bit of kick, but wasn't able to get in front of Mystic Lake last time. And Emery was to the outside, and maybe that was by choice, and they wanted to press and pounce. Now, the question now, or the situation now turns where Mystic Lake's to the outside of Emery, and it's up to Ortiz to do that if he wants to and go for the press and pounce trip. So I think Mystic Lake kind of holds the cards here and is in the driver's seat with Irad Ortiz, and I'll take that. Luan Machado rides Emery, replacing the injured Tyler Gaffleone. If you haven't been watching our podcast over the last couple days, Tyler Gaffleone's going to miss the entire meet with a broken ankle. So hopefully he has a speedy recovery. He's back for the summer, but he's not going to be riding here for Keeland, and I don't believe through the Triple Crown season either. So Luan Machado picks up the mount on Emery in here. Justique will get Jose Ortiz. So Irad's going to be up front with Mystic Lake. Jose's going to try to get him with Justique, and that should be part of the race with Emery right in the mix there as well. I think you want to use all 3 of these when you're talking about multi-race wagers. I would not be surprised, and I can't separate them by a whole lot. And in the event that Emery and Mystic Lake really do lock up in this race and go after each other more than they should, at 7/8 of a mile still is going to come with a big run. So I would use all three in the multi-race wagers. Really nice addition of the Madison Stakes. Let's go now to the 8th race on the card. It's the Shakertown final leg of the Keeland Turf Pick 3. Shakertown 5.5 furlong turf sprint will be the very first turf sprint we've had for the entire meet. We've only had one turf race to this point, that being today's stakes race in the Transylvania. So when I originally handicapped this race a couple days ago, we turned in our picks about 48 hours in advance for some of the print publications for the track. When we do them for the handicapper selectors box, I was assuming we were going to have a lot softer turf course than we had. Today, I thought that the time was very appropriate, right on par pretty much for what the Appalachians or what the Transylvania Stakes has been historically. So this turf course is not soft. It's going to be probably good again tomorrow. I think it's playing plenty fast. So I moved up Rogue Lightning, the horse from Ireland, thinking that we were going to have soft turf. Now, even if the turf is on the firmer side, this is an extremely talented horse, has won on good turf, has won on soft turf, but just, tremendous class running in races like the Prix de l'Abbey, and of course, a Group 3, Group 2 type performer around the Middle East, and of course running in France and England as well. The last race in Qatar at Doha was kind of a drop in class and got the victory in that one. But Tom Clover, the trainer, brings this one over stateside for the first time. French rider Flavien Prat gets the call. I went with the 4 in here because I thought we were going softer turf. It's a really good post position for a big field here. We've got 11 lined up. But at the same time, if the turf isn't quite as soft as we thought, I don't think that there's a massive advantage for Rogue Lightning. I certainly think Rogue Lightning could still be the winner and may be the right horse, but Arzak is right in the conversation. And with the firmer turf, then the real soft turf was the question mark with the defending champ Arzak. He won this race last year over a good turf in the Shakertown. He won the Woodford Stakes on firm turf back in 23 here at Keeneland. He's had a great racing career here in turf sprints. They found out what he does best, and Mike Trombetta has kept him there. I think Arzak's going to run a really good race. He's drawn beautifully in post number 3. There's not a lot of speed to his inside an hour shot. The one run Carson's probably going to come out of there. So Arzak might drop right over to the rail and just get a beautiful trip. Rogue Lightning maybe sticking to that one's outside, but I think Arzak's going to get a really good trip in here. And this could be a race where he's back and running strong. Now, he hasn't run since December 21st, but don't worry about that. We've got 17 years in the database of the Shakertown Stakes. In those 17 years, 12 of the winners were making their first start of the calendar year. Turf sprinters coming off long layoffs, don't worry about it. They run and they fire fresh in this race specifically. And we've got some horses that are making their first starts of the year. Run Carson, the 1, Arzak, the 3, Valentine Candy hasn't run since November. So there are a handful of them in there giving it a go. We had the 1 start this year for Rogue Lightning, the horse who ran in Qatar last time, and prior to that was running in France, running Arc Day at Longchamp. So don't worry about the fitness level. You don't have to be that fit to go 5.5 on the turf. You got to be sharp and ready to go. But as far as fitness goes, that's not a big deal. So I think Arzak's going to come back running in here. 3 and 4 are really the 2 standouts to me in the Shakertown. If the European runner brings that class over and form, will be very effective. And Arzak is just proven goods over this turf course. As for some of the others in here, if you're looking to spread out a little bit, number 7, Eamon is my price play at 20-1 in the morning line. This is the horse that Joe Orsino trains. Joe is a very good trainer of turf sprinters, as we've seen over the years. He's popped some good ones here at Keeland, and this horse ran a pretty good race, not to start in October. That was disastrous. But since then, ran well in the Silks Run. And if you go back to the Shakertown in 24, this same race last year, rallied for 3rd at 21-1 when coming out of a race at Gulfstream in the turf sprint ranks. Same repeat of the form cycle, 3rd in this race at a big price last year. If you're looking to get a horse in the exotics to kind of juice up your payoff, because look, Rogue Lightning and Arzak are probably going to be 1st and 2nd favorites, or right up there in consideration for 1st and 2nd favorites. Eamon's the horse who can work you in for some bigger prices. So maybe you're looking at something like 4-3 with 7 with all in a trifecta. Maybe 4-3 with all with 7 and the 7 running 3rd. I think the 3 or the 4 probably wins the race, but we want to get the 7 in there 2nd or 3rd in tries and supers to try to jack up the payoff there in the Shakertown Stakes, race number 7. As for the other handicappers across the way, Rogue Lightning picked also in here. Arzak, a couple on top. Gabby's got the 11 Think Big, and looking across the way at the other handicappers, she's on the island with that one. Think Big, 15-1 in the morning line, coming off a turf sprint allowance win at Fairgrounds for Mike Stidham. Tune in tomorrow, 11:30 a.m. today at Keeneland, when Scott and Gabby will go through all their picks on the card, and you can get her reasoning why she's going with this 15-1 long shot in the Shakertown. When I hear her make the case for that one, and all the price plays that they may have on the card, I try to explain myself here. That's what you want when you're talking and listening to a public handicapper, is get the reasoning as much as the bottom line picks. The bottom line picks are what they are. You know, picks are picks. We're going to do okay some days. We're going to have bad days other times. We're going to be right. We're going to be wrong. But the reasoning behind it is how you can learn as a horse player. And that's the reason why we do this show in so much depth. There are plenty of 2-minute videos on the internet. This isn't one of them. We're here doing it for real and trying to explain exactly how we're going through the process. So let's go next now to the main event. The reason everybody's excited about this Tuesday card at Keeland, it's the Bluegrass Stakes, 1 mile and an eighth. Then the Bluegrass Stakes here, as we go to the snapshot of the card, we'll wrap up the multi-race wagers like the Pick 6, races 5 through 10, like the All Stakes Pick 5, races 6 through 10, and the All Stakes Pick 4, races 7 through 10. So have a strong opinion in the Bluegrass. You're going to have an anchor leg here that you can use in multiple ways in terms of the multi-race wagers. Field for the Bluegrass Stakes, not the deepest we've ever had for sure. Field of 7 in here. Couple long shots in Admiral Dennis and Render Judgment, but when Brad Cox and Kenny McPeak have the longest shots on the tote board, you know you have yourself a pretty solid race. River Thames, the morning line favorite at 5-2, according to track odds maker Nick Tamaro. He's coming off a good second in the Fountain of Youth Stakes behind Sovereignty. Sovereignty returned, and also the third place finisher of the Fountain of Youth returned to run second and third, respectively, in the Florida Derby. That was behind Tappan Street. So River Thames comes out of a pretty live edition of the Fountain of Youth, where those horses came back to run 2-3 in the Florida Derby. Owen Almighty and Chancer McPatrick, they're 4-6 with the Saddle Towels here in the Bluegrass Stakes. They were matched up down at Tampa Bay Downs in the Tampa Bay Derby already this spring. It was Owen Almighty on the front end, where Chancer McPatrick didn't have the benefit of a start on the year. He was coming off the Breeders' Cup layoff. He ended up second best, second beaten 3.5. Nobody got close to Owen Almighty late, who flew home. Extremely fast fourth quarter, extremely fast final 16th of a mile. It made trainer Brian Lynch think maybe, just maybe, this horse can go a little bit farther. He in the connection. Some say Derby fever. Some say you got to take a shot here. He's going the 1 mile and an eighth with Owen Almighty. Tom Leach caught up with Brian Lynch a little bit earlier this week. Let's hear what he has to say about his Tampa Bay Derby winner.
Brian Lynch from Saddle, Owen Almighty in the Grade 1 Toyota Bluegrass. How's he training up to the race?
We're really excited about him. He's doing really well since the Tampa Bay Derby. He had a couple of nice works in between, and we're excited about Saturday, weather permitting.
How has he progressed from an outstanding 2-year-old to the horse you see now?
Yeah, no, he made the transition into a 3-year-old really well. He had a good winner down south, and capped it off with the Tampa Bay Derby, which is always a nice race to win before you get out of there. So, he's made the move to a 3-year-old like we were hoping he would.
Is the added 16th concern at all?
I mean, it's always a bit of a concern, but he seemed to, he seems to be doing well, and we're prepared to see where we're at with him after this race.
Beyond pedigree, anything else you see that gives you confidence that?
Yeah, just the way he trains. I mean, just the way he trains. He trains like a horse that, we gallop him 1.5 miles, 1 3/8, and the best part of his gallop's towards the end of his gallop. So we'd like to think that he's that he can get the trip. He's
got obviously a lot of early speed. Does he? He's not a need the lead type though.
Certainly not. I don't think. No, I think he could stalk. He could, if there's no pace, he could take the lead. If there is pace, he could sit off.
What are the qualities that this horse has that kind of made you think he could be something special early on?
Well, he's just one of them horses that's always exuded a lot of class. He's very professional in his day-to-day training, and he's a lovely horse to have around the barn. He's just a very, very classy individual, and he sort of identified himself early, and he's been lucky enough to keep progressing and be at the stage he is now.
How's the stable set up?
So that's Brian Lynch, trainer of Owen Almighty. Thanks to him and for Tom Leach for the interview there. Yeah, he mentioned that the horse doesn't necessarily have to have the lead. He was able to stalk and run a good second in the Iroquois. He was able to sit off the pace in his first 2 victories and pounce and win there. He did go wire to wire with an aggressive ride in the Tampa Bay Derby by Irad Ortiz. The interesting thing here is Irad jumps off now to ride River Thames for Todd Pletcher. Now, that can be a business decision. Obviously, he rides a lot more for Pletcher than he does for Brian Lynch, or it could be a thought process that he's not concerned or he's not convinced that Owen Almighty will run farther. However, Owen Almighty picks up Jose Ortiz, who's riding as well as anybody in America over the last 4 or 5 months. So, no tears for the rider change there, and ended up picking up Jose Ortiz. Now, as they mentioned, if there's not speed in the race, then Owen Almighty can go to the front. The real question here is they're right next to each other. Number 4, Owen Almighty, and number 5, East Avenue, are the 2 projected early speed horses in this race. River Thames could be sent along the rail. That'll be interesting. We've seen a lot of times over the years with the Ortiz brothers and a pace dynamic. How will they ride against each other? How aggressive would they be? Is River Thames going to go barreling out of there, and then will Jose concede the lead on Owen Almighty and let River Thames cut the corner with Irad and preserve the inside? Sometimes they're very friendly to each other riding in races. We know that as horse players. We've seen it a million times. That makes this Bluegrass a difficult pace projection in here. The other difficult part of the pace projection is East Avenue, who breaks right outside of Owen Almighty, because East Avenue was really fast as a 2-year-old. We know that. He went wire to wire, romped with a fast pace in the Breeders' Futurity here in the fall meet. But that same horse hasn't been around since October. In the Breeders' Cup, he stumbled at the start, didn't pick up a hoof from that point forward. And in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, he was beaten 13.5 lengths when running 9th of 10. He came back after a long layoff, was training beautifully. I mean, I loved the video workouts I saw of this horse going into the Risen Star. He was 4-5 at the fairgrounds, and he didn't make the lead that day. And he ran terribly and chucked in the towel, 10th beaten 22 lengths. He's beaten 3 horses in his last 2 races, and he hasn't made the lead in either one of them. Does he go back to the speed horse that we saw? They got blinkers on him this time. Brendan Walsh goes to the blinkers. I don't know which East Avenue shows up. We had mentioned Tyler Gaffleone out with an injury. Luan Machado is going to pick up the mount here on East Avenue. Maybe Brendan Walsh, the trainer, can give us a little bit of insight on what we can expect out of East Avenue. Tom caught up with him a few days ago as well.
Walsh settles East Avenue in the Grade 1 Toyota Bluegrass Stakes. As time has moved away from that Risen Star effort, anything that explains the performance to you?
No standout excuse really, Tom. We thought that he was coming into the race in good shape, and he seemed like he was getting a nice trip. I'm thinking he either didn't like it. Look, it's one thing for a horse to work on a track, it's another thing for them to run on it. He just seems like he's a lot more comfortable since he's come up here, so maybe the track was an excuse. I'm not sure. Maybe we didn't have him quite ready enough. I'm not sure. We'll find out on Saturday.
You like what you see since he's got to Kentucky?
Absolutely, and we've left no stone unturned since. So I think on Saturday what you see is going to be him.
How has he changed from 2 to 3?
He's done great. I mean, physically he's gotten stronger. He's got the mind of a good horse. He's got it all, So he's done very, very well. And before the Risen Star, we thought he had done well too. So look, I think he deserves another chance. And like I said, what we see on Saturday, I think is going to be him.
Good chance the track will be.
Of course, that was taped last week when we thought the Bluegrass would be on Saturday. A few days later, we'll see that race on Tuesday. Tomorrow, the Toyota Bluegrass. After listening to Brendan Walsh in that interview, I don't know that he has any answers. They're trying the blinkers. There was no real reason for as poorly as the horse ran in the Risen Star. I don't know what we get out of East Avenue. I have no idea what the price is going to be on him as well. I'm surprised it's a 3-1 morning line, but it may very well be correct. And if this horse is 3-1 East Avenue, I would find that to be an exceptionally low underlay. And the morning line maker will be correct. And that's the job of the morning line maker, is to project the odds of what the public's going to do. But if the public makes East Avenue 3-1, I would have to be a stand against, obviously. And so I have other horses in here that I prefer. Burnham Squares in this race, who's probably the off-the-pace type, along with Chancer McPatrick to watch. Chancellor McPatrick was a little bit closer to the pace in the Tampa Bay Derby. That's a good sign. He was really a lagger who was kind of coming by tired horses a lot of times as a 2-year-old. Chad Brown, of course, he's had these good closers here, Zandon and some other Sierra Leone that have run big in recent years from off the pace in the Bluegrass Stakes. It would be no shock to see Chancellor McPatrick come right back. Flavian Pratt riding. Of course, he teamed with Zandon to win this race a few years ago. And last year it was Sierra Leone with Tyler Gaffleone for Chad Brown. He's going to be coming at the end, right? Chancellor McPatrick's going to make him work at the end. I kind of think that, and I think Chancellor McPatrick may vie for favoritism in here with River Thames. I won't be surprised if Chancellor McPatrick actually goes off the favorite in here. I think the public likes this horse. They like Chad Brown and Pratt. Of course, they like Irad and Pletcher too with River Thames. So it's hard to say, but I won't be shocked if Chancellor McPatrick, who's kind of a very New York through and through kind of horse, doesn't take a lot of New York simulcast money. River Thames, he ran well in the Fountain of Youth, but that was a race. It's a lot different than the Bluegrass Stakes. The Fountain of Youth, kind of like at Keeneland, at Gulfstream, when they run a mile and a 16th, the 16th pole finish line is in play. And he was clear and gone and got ran down by Sovereignty in that particular race. He kind of hit the wall. It's mostly sprint pedigree for River Thames if you look top and bottom. He did get to the mile and a 16th and run second in the Fountain of Youth, but now they got to run another 16th of a mile in the straightaway in the stretch when they're tired, when they're on their final lead change. He could be tired, and River Thames at a mile and an eighth scares me amongst the big players in here. He's the one I'm going to take a stand against. Let's look at the picks for the Bluegrass Stakes and what the other handicappers have in here. I'm going to go with Owen Almighty because I think he's going to be the best value of the good horses. There are 3 or 4 really good horses in this particular race, and I think Owen Almighty is going to get let go at a better price than some of the others. I think there's been enough talk, and with Irad jumping off, and enough talk about how he might not want to run that far. I think he does. I think his buyer speed figures have been grossly underrated. And I think that's why he's going to be the value play. He should have gotten a much faster fig in the Sam F. Davis Stakes 2 starts back. His figures were low that day. Part of it was because LaCara ran so fast on the undercard in the Suncoast Stakes. And we saw LaCara today. She came back and won the Ashland Stakes. She was a filly who ran a very fast time on the Suncoast on the undercard the day that Owen Almighty was running in the Sam F. Davis, to kind of explain where I'm going with why I think Owen Almighty's underrated. LaCara ran a big number. She ran exceptionally fast, but didn't get a big number because all of her past buyer speed figures have been low. And so if they were to give her a big number and give this race to Sam F. Davis, where Owen Almighty was second, it was the fastest Sam F. Davis Stakes in history, won by John Hancock, a talented horse with some distance limitations, but a very talented horse. They ran fast that day. But in order to give them a big buyer speed figure, they would have had to give LaCara a huge figure as well, and she had never run anywhere close to that. So I think in terms of the figure history and how they're trying to make figures for the horses that match up properly with the part of the narrative, part of their figure history, and part of how fast they ran that day, I think they made an assumption that the track was something that it wasn't, brought everybody down a little bit. And had you seen Owen Almighty run a 94 or something like that in the Sam F. Davis, then they probably would have gotten an even bigger number in the Tampa Bay Derby. It was the second fastest Tampa Bay Derby in history as well, and he looked awesome on the back end of that race. So I actually think he's faster than what his figures show, and LaCara certainly was today, and she came back and won nicely in the Ashland Stakes. I won't be surprised if Owen Almighty wins this race, but I also won't be surprised if Jose Ortiz concedes the front in here to River Thames, and we'll see what East Avenue does to the outside of him. And then will Owen Almighty be able to pounce and go past horses if he concedes the lead to his brother Irad on River Thames? There's a lot of cat and mouse going on, as you can see in this particular Bluegrass Stakes, and a lot of different ways you can go. Burnham Square from Florida, I thought he ran a disappointing race in the Fountain of Youth, but his Holy Bull was really good. And I thought the right move would have been to run in the Holy Bull, skip the Fountain of Youth, and then go to the Florida Derby. That's what Brad Cox did with Tappan Street, and it was a winning formula. I think running all 3 legs of the Florida Derby series was too much, especially for Burnham Square, who had already run a maiden special 2-turn race at the meet at Gulfstream. He was running his 3rd 2-turn race at Gulfstream of the meet, and he kind of came up flat in the Fountain of Youth. He might be refreshing here and bounce back. I wouldn't be surprised if Burnham Square runs a good race. So an excellent edition of the Bluegrass Stakes. We're looking at potentially, I think, 3 Kentucky Derby starters coming out of this race, depending the way it shakes out. We already have enough points with Owen Almighty, but if Owen Almighty can't get the distance, if they're right about the suspicions that he can't get the distance, he probably won't go on to the Kentucky Derby. Then we might be looking at 2 horses into the Kentucky Derby field out of this race, based on the total number of points allotted by Churchill Downs through the prep races. But as for the other handicappers across the way, Tom's going to give a shot to East Avenue on the bounce back. River Thames, top pick for Kim and Gabby. Scott and I are on the Owen Almighty train. Chance of McPatrick, surprisingly not picked that much across the way. I've got him second. Gabby's got him second. Kim's got him third. So he might be the odd man out on the tote board. Very interesting. I have no idea who's going to be the favorite of this race. I have no idea who's going to the front. And hopefully I have an idea who's going to be going to the winner's circle. Hopefully it's Owen Almighty. Let's go to the final race on the card now as we go through this elongated program of 11 races, an elongated podcast tonight as we tip over the hour mark. We'll get you back for the second half of the NCAA title game with Houston and Florida. That's going on in the first half, I believe, as we're going here. Toyota Super High 5, the final race on the card. It has a carryover, a little over $6,000, almost $6,200 in the carryover. 11th race on the card is a first level allowance race. And this is 3-year-olds and up in here. There are some 3-year-olds running against 4-year-olds, I believe, in this spot. Or no, that's on Wednesdays when we start the 3-year-old and up allowance races. So in this particular one, they're all 4-year-olds in the finale. 4 and up. I'm going with the one Seaport Lane. Let's wrap this up. Debuted against maidens, or debuted not against maidens, but against allowance horses. Won nicely that day in a fast time, 9 and change. Come back and work fast. I think this horse is going to be a pretty short price. We're going to take a favorite to wrap things up. Seaport Lane, just fast from the rail, just goes and blitzes them. Give me the 6 Reynolds Channel underneath. The horse adding blinkers, who has run well over the track. Ran good going long here. Cuts back to 7 furlongs, but has been running one-turn races at the end of last year. In New York. Bill Mott could have a good day. He's got Reynolds Channel to 6. Map to the Stars, third choice in here, was no match for Seaport Lane at Fairgrounds. Came back and kind of underscored that race, though, in running an improved second next time out. So I don't see anything too big in terms of prices in a nightcap. I've got it 1, 6, and 8. And that's a rather chalky way to finish up. And as you look across the way, a lot of 1s, a lot of 6s in there for the final race on the card. Tom's got a shot in there with the 10-1 shot, Pentathlon. We'll see. He's got the Shug McGahee trainee on top. Maybe it's his long shot play of the day. Tune in tomorrow to the Today at Keeland preview show, 11:30 a.m. Eastern, and you'll get Tom's long shot play of the day. Maybe it is Pentathlon in the finale. All right, I want to thank you for joining us on this podcast. We promise it'll be much shorter tomorrow night as we preview the Wednesday card. Just 8 races on the card Wednesday and no stakes races. So that'll be day 4 of the meet and day 4 of our 8 crazy nights, 8 consecutive shows here on the podcast. We're going to have a hot tea. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Enjoy some basketball, and we'll be back at it tomorrow. Good luck at Keeneland. First post 1 o'clock for Bluegrass Day. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody.